Hey guys, what's up? It is week 231, and I ended up picking up a new audio recording device. I went for something a little smaller. Hopefully it comes out decent. I ended up recording the review with Jeremy, and the sound sounded pretty decent, so let me guys know if you guys notice any audio changes. What would the show be without opening this up with some corrections? Last week, in my tired stupor, I was mumbling about shirts, and I confused House on the Edge of the Park, A House by the Cemetery, which I never do because I adore both those movies. Whatever, it happens occasionally. And I also, when I was talking about, I always re-listen back to make sure I don't make too many mistakes. And if I do, I want to correct them. So, and I also was talking about, I mixed up the Criterion Blu-rays, what short had what, and I said something about the Brood having the grandmother short on there, which is completely inaccurate. I was mixing up my Cronenberg and Lynch because I did two shorts last week, one Cronenberg, one Lynch. Okay, so the Eraserhead Blu-ray has the grandmother short on it, and the Brood Blu-ray, not the Videodrome, the Brood Blu-ray has the Crimes of the Future short on there. So a big mix-up. Anyways, let's hop into these reviews. It's not as big a show, not as many, reviews in here as usual, but we got a decent amount. Hell, like the first few of these movies, you could probably pull out your Pervert card for, but I'm saving it for a special one. Usually I save it for those Nikatsu erotic films for a good reason, or a Sato movie or something like that. But this first one here is a full moon release, and this is Emmanuelle and the White Slave Trade, directed by Joe D'Amato. Joe D'Amato did a handful of the Emmanuelle movies. He didn't direct the first Black Emmanuelle movie. The Emmanuelle series is very confusing, okay? So you have Emmanuelle, which is a French kind of sex film, drama deals, exploitation. I don't know how explicit it is. I never did get a chance to watch the Emmanuelle movies, but there's a slew of those. And then we have the Italian people coming out and making the Black Emmanuelle, cashing in on that with Laura Gemser. Laura Gemser is in a slew of exploitation films, often directed by Joe D'Amato. So they made a Black Emmanuelle. The first one wasn't directed by Joe D'Amato. Then they made a second one, Black Emmanuelle 2, by I think the same director, which is semi-unrelated, but Joe D'Amato also made a partial kind of sequel, Emmanuelle in Bangkok. And then we have like 5 or 6 more kind of official Emmanuelle movies. We have a couple even done by Bruno Mattei at the very end. So you've probably seen a Emmanuelle movie, but you didn't know it was a Emmanuelle movie, or maybe you've seen one and it was a unauthorized Emmanuelle movie, because similar to the Django movies or something along those lines, they get renamed. So any movie with Laura Gemser that was Italian or probably got named Emmanuelle. The two big ones that stand out for me that are official Black Emmanuelle movies are Emmanuelle and the Last Cannibals and Emmanuelle in America, both of which I've covered on here. Both I like to a certain extent. I'm more of a fan of Emmanuelle and the Last Cannibals, more my jam. So, Emmanuelle and the White Slave Trade, yeah, this is an official Emmanuelle movie, from my understanding. Well, Black Emmanuelle, not an official Emmanuelle movie. So, this does have an appearance by Gabrielle Tinti, of course, who is married to Laura Gemser. She stars in it, of course, and she's the journalist, like she always is, going in undercover and everything like that. The funny thing about these movies, which is completely inappropriate, so she's trying to kind of unveil a white slave trade. So, she kind of goes in infiltrates and everything, uses her, her good looks and sexual, exploits to kind of move forward and get the story down. But there's these moments where she has these horrible things happen to her, and at the very end of the movie, she's like, "There's my story," and it's very funny. Like in Emmanuelle in America, I believe that's the one where she tricks this guy into not killing her by kind of seducing him or whatever. It's just such a strange thing. No matter how much trauma or terrible things she endures, by the end of it, the whole mood of the movie is very bubbly and poppy, and it's just insane, especially when you get to stuff like Emmanuelle in America, which is just so brutal at times, and this one has its moments too. Besides Gabrielle Tinti, he kind of plays like a white slave trader or whatever. There's a couple other familiar faces in here. The one that popped out to me was, I never remember this guy's name. He is a Italian kind of character actor. He pops up in City of the Living Dead. He's the one that shoves old Giovanni Lamberto Radici's head onto the drill, or Bob. And he's also in a Cannibal Apocalypse where he plays one of the police officers. He's just in a slew of these movies. You'll recognize him right away. Kind of a rugged looking guy. He popped up in, he was in that Western box that I covered, Vengeance Trails. He was in one of those, and I think he was, I can't remember which is the one he was in. See, that's the problem with doing so many movies, especially Italian movies. As much as I love them, The ones that I didn't grow up with, and I saw more in recent years, they bleed together a lot of times. So, it's hard to recollect some of the titles, especially when they have 30 alternate names and a lot of these kind of character actors in them. Some of the big ones obviously stand out, but this guy's name is just not ringing a bell to me. But anyways, Emanuelle kind of like goes in undercover, and there's this really kind of fun moment when she's like in the brothel, and there is a trans character that kind of like is the head of the girls who takes care of the girls, and they kind of team up at a certain point, and the bad guys are attacking in a bowling alley of all places, and this trans character just starts to whoop a bunch of ass. Of course, it's an exploitation movie, so it ends very poorly for that character, and you're like, oh, that's unpleasant. But it's just really fun that you think, like, and so many times you would watch these, Italian horror films or exploitation films, genre films, and that character would just get pushed over, or it would be a Dario movie where they're just kind of wimpy and everything like that. Although he did give, some credence to, I think, Four Flies on Grey Velvet was the one that had the character who's helping solve the crimes and everything like that. So, again, props there for Dario's film, but this one, like, this character just starts whooping all this ass, and it's just like, I was like, oh, that's unexpected but awesome for these 70s movies like this, especially these Italian exploitation films. So yeah, there is a lot of sleaze, there's a lot of sex. They go kind of break down and kind of try to show you like the underground like slave trade, where they're like pricing all these women and everything, and like, she's only 17 years old, so it's really grody stuff that's going to be kind of bothersome to people. And then like there's even like these moments where like she kind of infiltrates trying to get a story, and her friends are just hanging out with these bad people and all that kind of stuff. But as far as the film is concerned, I came kind of like a little bit down. I better not take that out of context when I'm talking about a Black Emanuelle movie. But you guys, I came like a little above average for this one. It was enjoyable. The picture quality is okay. It's not spectacular. It's been slightly remastered and everything like that. But some of the full moon ones, they range in quality and everything like that. Their stuff that they do, usually they clean up a little bit better, but some of these like 70s exploitation films, they're not always the best looking. But I am glad to have a lot of these actually get a wide release and everything like that. That's awesome. So yeah, Emmanuelle and the White Slave Trade. It is an official Emmanuelle movie, and I believe it was in the old Severin DVD box set. And I do think that when Severin puts this out on Blu-ray, I do think this one is gonna end up being in there. I don't know how the rights work and everything like that with Full Moon and Severin working together, but yeah. Okay, so the next one from Full Moon is, you guessed it, another Emanuelle movie. And this is Emanuelle Black Velvet, aka the one that I know and under is Black Emanuelle, White Emanuelle. And this is an unofficial Emanuelle movie. So yeah, it's not actually part of the series. So she's not exactly a journalist. She's more of a model type. So like, this is a strange movie. I don't even know where to kind of lapse this. It's not directed by Joe D'Amato, but it does star Laura Gemser, and it does star Gabrielle Tinti as a photographer here. A real brutal, mean-spirited one, rapist photographer, if you will. So she's kind of in this erotic location, which all the Emanuelle movies are. They work as like tourist guides and everything, as well as exploitation movies. So she ends up like going to this kind of exotic location, and there's all these like strange people in there. A lot of actors you would recognize. Like I said, you have Gabrielle Tinti is here, Annie Bell from House on the Edge of the Park, and she's in, oh geez, I want to say she's in one of these. She's in one of the Antonio Marighetti war films, if I'm not mistaken. So she's also in here, looking gorgeous as ever, with their kind of her like what's the word? She always has that kind of like short hair. Every movie I've seen her, she kind of goes with like the short hair look, but she looks gorgeous. And also, who's in here? Susan Scott from tons of movies. She's in Forbidden Photos of a Lady Above Suspicion. She's in a lot of westerns and giallo. She's pretty much kind of an infamous actress in these movies. And Al Cliver makes an appearance in here as this kind of strange cult leader. And the old guy from the church, the W.A.V.E movie, Fyodor, is in here too, as kind of a strange role. His role is actually probably the best to me, because he plays this aging actor that refuses to accept that he's just not very good, and that's the reason he's not successful anymore, which I kind of dug. But it is a weird film. A lot of times they're kind of just like wandering around the desert taking photos while Gabrielle Tinti loses his temper, and there's this exploitive element where all these people have passed away in the desert either from murder or they dehydrated or stuff like that, and they're just taking pictures with these bodies, and it's just rather unpleasant, feeling kind of like a Mondo film in that kind of aspect, or maybe it's making a statement on how disgusting the Mondo movies are in general. I don't know, but it's kind of funny, you got to exploit stuff to make a comment on exploitation movies, but then we get into the cannibal Holocaust element there, and I don't think that this one's doing this. I think this is more of your sexploitation kind of grody thing. So, like, we get to this idea of a strange cult and all that kind of weird stuff going on, and it just kind of was really strange and bizarre, and this is a weird film. I don't know how really to go about it, and like, I didn't love this one. I actually prefer Emmanuelle and the White Slave Trade because probably it's more so much something I'm used to with the Emanuelle movies and everything like that. But I did kind of find this one a little bit surprising in some of the things they did, just with like the exploitation picture element and stuff, and the ending just being so off the wall and bonkers. And the cast, I was really kind of surprised with such a well-rounded cast in these Italian movies. I mean, there's only so many actors that are in these things, but at the same time, it was just nice seeing so many familiar faces in one place, and just like kind of establishing some decent characters and everything like that. But of course, it has all the sex in it that you would be looking for, people sleeping together, and like big taboos like lesbianism. At the time, that was something special, I guess, in these movies, or a drawing point for a lot of people because it just wasn't as widely available in films. But Emanuelle Black Velvet, if it sounds like it's up your alley, check it out. An unofficial, unauthorized sequel or rebranded Black Emanuelle movie. I'm okay with it. I would prefer Emanuelle in the White Slave Trade over this one. But yeah, you know what you're getting into and this kind of stuff. This one is different, though. It is different from the typical Emanuelle movies. So if you're looking for something maybe a little bit more out there, then this one is it. Okay, I really loved watching this one. So somebody mentioned this when I was talking to them briefly at Cinema Wasteland. They're like, have you seen the W.A.V.E. Documentary, Mail Order Murder, yet? And I was like, no, I hadn't. And they're like, well, it just kind of was like kind of a recommendation. So this is Mail Order Murder, the story of W.A.V.E. Productions. And it's from, what is this new company? Saturn's Core Audio and Video. And they put out a couple. They put out Psycho Sisters, which is the W.A.V.E. movie. And they're putting out Shattered Dead, which I'm very excited for. I'm a big fan of Shattered Dead. I think it's one of those transgressive, awesome, different SOV movies, not your cheesy slasher movie that people like to laugh at, which I love those too, but Shattered Dead I always felt was something special. I saw it at a young age and it really made an impression on me, so seeing it get a nice kind of remastered edition is just kind of awesome, and I hope people discover it and enjoy it. I remember God Hates You. I know shouldn't be talking about Shattered Dead, but I just want to bring it up because they're releasing that one. So Mail Order Murder, oh boy, I don't even know how to go about this, but there's this guy called Gary Whitson, and he made this low-budget SOV, a movie company, and after a while, people started, he kind of put it out there as kind of like, there was this kind of mail order like music kind of thing that went on where people would write lyrics and people would make the song and then you kind of pay for it and everything like that. They did that on a movie level for super low budget movies, and kind of the big name in here was Tina Krause. She's a scream queen, and she's in other films. She's in Bloodletting, which is one of my favorite movies. She's actually in Hunters, which I was in as well, which is crazy. It didn't even register at that point. And I've seen Bloodletting a million times and I love Bloodletting. So anyways, it has like some other people in here as well that like it kind of just like group of regular kind of scream queens, and at first I was like, W.A.V.E. Productions, I don't know what the hell that is, and then I started seeing some of the titles and I still was like, I don't know what the hell those are, which is kind of rare. But after a while I noticed a couple that I had heard of, and I was like, oh shit, female mercenaries on Zombie Island, which always would ring a bell because as a young kid I looked and obsessed over everything zombie. So as like a 12-13-year-old kid I was trying to find all the zombie titles, and that was one of them that popped up that I never did get a chance to see. So what these W.A.V.E. productions are no budget movies, and a lot of times fetish films, because people write in, they say, I want a girl being drugged naked, I want a girl being strangled, I want a girl in quicksand. And you can imagine somebody that's going to send this money out and just kind of give you a vague description or a complicated script of certain things. Some of it's going to be fetish stuff. You kind of see some clips of it in the very beginning and they're just wild. Sometimes they're like these sci-fi epics that are made with no money, dinosaur movies with like toy dinosaurs eating people, always filled with explicit nudity and strangling and stuff like that. But it has a bunch of interviews with people in here, including Gary Whitson, who is that guy who's still making movies like this, and also like one of the special effects artists, and a lot of the actresses, and also a lot of the people around the scene at the time, a lot of the people who had these web zines like Hugh Gallagher, and J.R. Bookwalter and Michael Razzo, all these people that were, independent producers and directors of SOV movies and stuff like that. So that was awesome to see their input on this, and kind of where the scene was. It also incorporates footage from, like conventions at the time. So you'll see all these people at certain conventions and all the stuff at the tables. And I remember getting a lot of these old books, like alternative cinema books, and looking at like the Tempe catalogs and being like, oh shit, I really want to get these Video Outlaw titles and stuff like that, and just being like, $20, I want to get Polymorph for $20, I need Midnight 2, Sex, Death, and Videotape. I just had a weird connection to this movie as well, because it's kind of something that I grew up watching a lot of these movies or trying to track them down. Now, W.A.V.E. was a company I never really got into because half their titles are like Strangled 6, and I'm like, I don't know what, I ain't seen the first 5 though, but seriously, I'm just like, I don't know what that is. I like my sleaze in my movies, if you guys don't know that, but I'm looking more for like, Ozone or Shattered Dead or something a little bit different that was in these catalogs, which I've always kind of liked. So as it goes on, you learn more and more about it. There's footage of all the people and actresses in there. And Tina Kraus cracked me up in here. She kind of is like doing impressions of Gary at times, like just like almost kind of making fun of his directing style or just the things that are done. And the special effects artist is like, well, he'll get a script and he's like, can you do it for $50? He's like, no, Gary, I'm gonna need at least 100. And it's just like, and it also, it's fun to think like, if you gave like the special effects artist a real budget, you know that he would be doing a very good job because he's making something out of nothing. So it definitely piques an interest in watching some of these movies, but I do worry with some of these that it might lose like the first 15 minutes. You're like, this is great, this is hilarious, and if you're watching it by yourself, you kind of lose. Like, you're like, I've had enough of this, if that makes any sense to anybody. But the documentary was a blast to watch. I loved everything about it. I like seeing a glimpse at the past and everything like that, and like the late 80s, early 90s, even into like the early 2000s, kind of glimpses at this stuff. And it's special. It's a special documentary. It's actually directed by William Hellfire, who's on the disc as well, and for good reason, because he made a lot of movies in this similar vein. He did Duck the Carbine School Massacre, and he had Upside Down Cross, which came out a few years back, and he made some of these kind of strangled movies as well. And J.R. Bookwalter talks about it. He's like, at first I was kind of annoyed by these movies, but I thought about it more, he kind of was just, he outsmarted us all. He went direct to the source. He was making these like low budget movies that people wanted, and just direct to, and it's just kind of, he's been successful. He was a school teacher that got to quit his job. So it's just an awesome documentary. And I just would really recommend checking it out. Anybody that is interested in low budget filmmaking or filmmaking in general, I mean, this kind of documentary is accessible to people that aren't really into film either, or obsessed with weird shot on video or weird strange films or anything, or the history of independent film. I think that this could branch over, and and literally people that are just interested in documentaries in general would get a kick out of this one. I really dug it. Love the interviews of people, and I'll say this, like, a lot of the people that are involved with the movie, like, the movies are so ridiculous and everything like that, you're like, oh, who, like, a lot of people that don't make independent movies or don't know anything about horror films in general are like, who would make something like this? And then like all the interviews, they're all just like normal, well-adjusted people, like, yeah, well, it is, they're just like, they come across very normal and very nice and very decent people. It's nothing like these just a bunch of crazy people, or anything like that. Sometimes, like, you watch documentaries and there'll be somebody who's off and they'll like gravitate towards the documentary and they'll just take over the entire documentary or something like that. Like, I'm looking at you, Paradise Lost. I'm looking at you. But yeah, anyways, Mail Order Murder, highly recommended. Check it out. And go ahead, go over to the Vinegar Syndrome website, especially if you're like a year membership or whatever, and go ahead and order that Shattered Dead Blu-ray. It's one of the best SOV movies ever made, and one of the most transgressive. And I mentioned Hugh Gallagher is interviewed on here too, and he did the gore trilogy, like Gorerotica, Goregasm, and Gore Horror. And I think Gorerotica is the one that I think is really, really awesome, and I would really recommend checking that one out. And Gore Horror too, I think, is good. I mean, I think that, Gorgasm has its moments, but those last two I think are much better, especially Gorotica, if that's the one I'm thinking about. But they're just crazy movies, too. That's the kind of SOV movies I can get behind, and a lot of the tempy stuff, too. It's just like, it's very, it's got a big kind of ideas and stuff like that. Just stuff that a lot of people wouldn't do. So anyways, check out Mail Order Murder. And there's the features. I forgot to mention the features. There is one of the entire films on here, so you can watch a WAVE production for yourself. And then there is some extra long interviews and everything like that. So yeah.
I don't know how to describe it because it's hard to describe. I didn't know what I was watching.
There's a photo of Gary Whitson with his camcorder, and there's a woman chained to a plank with a mummy hovering over her. And that just makes your mind go crazy because you want to see that.
Popped it in, and it was like, a woman being dragged through a hallway, and it's just very strange stuff.
When we first started with WAVE, it was basically going to be a hobby.
We like things that were exciting. Chick flicks, out.
I would go in and I go, what's my makeup budget for this movie, Gary? And he goes, $75. And I go, well, that's not going to work.
Well, I think they need to, basically get a camera and just start shooting and have fun with it.
He wanted it to be a success. He came up with the idea of, let's see if there are people who want specific films made specific ways.
Since a picture is worth 1,000 words, why don't you just sit back and watch these clips from custom films we have made in the past?
I think my first impression of WAVE was probably one of just absolute horror.
It almost wasn't quite fair to kind of review them in the same context as you're reviewing even a semi-pro film. I mean, these movies are what they are, and they kind of defy criticism.
I found myself sitting around afterwards thinking man, they were really washing that car for a very, very long time.
We all took turns being the snake handler and having our hands in this snake puppet, and it was the stupidest thing, but it was just so much fun.
There's not a lot of attention to safety.
Are you kidding me? There's no safety on a WAVE set.
I really wanted to just make movies that I would want to see. There were more and more people that wrote and said, yes, we like this.
I think at first I kind of thought that we were just doing low-budget horror. Later, when we started doing other things like oil wrestling and getting pies thrown at us, then you start realizing, okay, there's other stuff going on here.
There's a lot of very beautiful women that have some very difficult and very traumatic experiences, such as being killed.
Some people get addicted to this stuff.
Mind-bending, no budget, low budget, backyard, shot on video, insanity.
Dave, you should be paying us to be in the movies. We shouldn't be paying you.
He has the desire, and I think that's what makes you a success. I mean, he couldn't have asked for a better life.
So after I watched Mail Order Murder, I was like, well, I got a taste for WAVE. I want to check out some of these WAVE pictures. So here's what we got. Female mercenaries on Zombie Island. That's right. This also, it's the collection, so it includes part 2 and some shorts as well. Shot on Super VHS, Mini DV, and Super 8. That's right. Geez. I don't know what to say about female mercenaries on Zombie Island, but I guess here we go. This is a super low-budget movie. Right off the bat, made in 1995. I've always wanted to watch this one. I always had the title stuck in my head. And right when I pop it in, I'm one of these, I know people are like, don't worry about the runtime. It's not your movie, yada, yada. So it's an hour and 51 minutes. It's an hour and 51 minutes. Wait a minute. It's an hour. 51 minutes. Yeah, and an SOV. SOV movies I'm so used to being about 65, 75 minutes, and I usually enjoy those. So an hour and 51 minutes, I was like, no, oh shit. Well, here we go. It's this big epic. If you were to ask me the plot of Female Mercenaries on Zombie Island, I would not know what to do. I do not know how to tell you the plot of this film. It's an hour and 51 minutes long. and about 30 minutes in, I stopped trying to follow the plot, if that makes any sense. So what we have here is a meteor kind of crash lands on Earth, and it kind of like has the apocalypse kind of happens. And what happens... Jesus, I don't even know how to go about this. We have this doctor. A lot of people died. They reverted back to being like these zombies, but they're not really zombies because they all are like, they need this serum that this evil doctor has made, but they're not really the doctor, from my understanding. Or is that part 2? I'm mixing them all up. So anyways, the doctor is evil and holds a serum from the guys, so they work for her. They're kind of like slaves to her. All of them look like guys, except pretty much they're all normal guys except one is just rotted zombie, which is the guy in a mask, and he's walking around. So they basically kidnap women and eat them in the jungle, in the island form or whatever. And there's also a group of like people that want to stop the doctor. One is Tina Kraus, and one is another kind of W.A.V.E. regular. In fact, it looks like all the actors, and of course in here are W.A.V.E. and actresses are W.A.V.E. regulars in these movies. So what progresses is people being like laid down and like cooked, people being put in pots, but it's very done cheaply and very ridiculous. The fight sequences are absolutely awful. They're not very well choreographed, and there's just stuff like just not very well shot, to be honest. I mean, they're just not very effective, and the editing techniques and the camera angles aren't well done enough to hide bad fight choreographing and stuff like that. So like if you would place the camera over here and you'd see like them do that, like no, they don't even bother like moving certain places, so it's always in the worst spot. So it's obviously they're not taking a hit. They'll add sound effects in here, the next hit they won't have the sound effects. So it's a very inconsistent, very low budget movie, and I think that it is like epic too, like it's an hour 51 minutes and a lot of crazy stuff is going on and just super weird stuff, and there's a lot of long takes. Like every take's like 3 and 4 minutes too long. Like fight scenes in the water where people are being drowned, and it's obviously kind of like fetish too, because like the person will drown and their ass will stick up in the water in their underwear, and it'll be like you'll see their like underwear in the water for like 2 minutes, and you're just like, okay. Or like you know what I mean, you'll just see people in their underwear or nude standing around for like a couple minutes longer than they should, and all that kind of stuff. Minimal camera angles, of course, coverage, which is expected. But and you can get away with a lot of that if the runtime doesn't hit an hour and 51 minutes, and then you just start, everything becomes very tedious after a while. Now, this is not the type of movie that you pop in by yourself and you think and watch and you think, this is very interesting. This is a group setting movie where you have some drinks and you kind of laugh, but you would never be able to follow the freaking plot at the same time, because there's all these kind of weird things of people being programmed and evil and like groups of people fighting. It's not a great movie, obviously, if you can hear how I'm saying all this kind of stuff, but it's definitely a movie that would interest a lot of people just because it's a W.A.V.E. movie and it's super weird, and it's kind of like the only one that got widely distributed, if that makes any sense. There is a sequel on here too, Female Mercenaries on Zombie Island 2, like the Mad Doctor or something. And both these movies, I should say, they play like an Eddie Romero Filipino movie, like what are those movies that Severin put out? You guys know those Filipino Dr. Blood or Mad like Island, those kind of movies like that, those Filipino ones where we have the science experiment, the kind of monster running around the island. They kind of play in that kind of fashion, to be brutally honest. There's another movie that was kind of in that vein called like Zombie Isle, if I'm not mistaken, which was much better than these and a lot of fun, actually. We had like the two-headed monster at the very end. I think that was the title of that one, and that one was way better than expected. I remember that one being vastly enjoyable, and the second one to me was even worse. Like the end of the first one opens up and it shows Tina Kraus in like a cloning chamber, and it's like, if that was so-and-so, then who's this? And it like asks these ridiculous questions. And then the second movie ends in a way that it just brings up all these plot holes, and then like supposedly they're going to cover them in the third movie, and it's just like, are you just like finding plot holes in your movie and then like putting them as question marks at the very end of the movie so you can make a sequel to that to try to cover the plot holes? And I feel like they did that with the second one too. But you know what it is? Like these are movies that people are paying for, they're getting released, and they're making money, and they're having fun, and they don't seem horribly, like they're miserable while making them. but as a person that has no vested interest watching it, sometimes they're very tedious. And there's like, I don't think there's as much nudity in this one, but of course there is more people getting knocked out or passed out laying there with their underwear hanging out of their pants. There's a lot of that, a lot of like beautiful women getting knocked out and laying on their side and their skirts right up, and you could see like them wearing like skimpy underwear and stuff. That's kind of like the movie's MO, and I'm sure people like eat that up. They're just like, oh wow, I love this. But you know, we do have the internet now, so the second one was made in 2008, but it looks a lot like the first one. I just can't really get behind this one. The second one's even more confusing with tons of clones and a lot of the same actresses and actors playing these multiple roles and characters, and you're like, who's on whose side? Who cares? Like, it's one of those movies that's so like all over the place and ridiculous and over the top that I'm just like, I can't follow this. I'm not going to give the energy to follow this. If somebody's like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. And maybe that's my fault. I don't know. But it's just Female Mercenaries on Zombie Island and Female Mercenaries on Zombie Island 2. There's a bunch of shorts on here as well. I should read them out. There's also a Gary Whitson interview. So besides that, there's also The Misadventures of Fanny Starr, 81 short, and If God Should Fall, another 1976 short film. So yeah, this movie is absolutely bonkers, and they do play as kind of fetish movies as well. Like I said, they do have the strangulation, the skimpy underwear, the drowning, all that kind of stuff that people, that I guess perverts. I mean, my pervert card doesn't have this movie on there, if that makes any sense. Like, it's not one of the like listings where it's like, oh yeah, this, yeah, but it is what it is. Female Mercenaries on Zombie Island. Okay, now it's time to get out your real pervert card. So this is the pervert card alert, and this is from the Nakatsu Erotic Films collection, and this is True Story of a Woman in a Soapland Tear. Like, is that like, yeah, that's like the weird, like a ripping tear? Okay, so Soapland in Japan is a Japanese brothel, from my understanding, kind of like a bathhouse or like a massage parlor in the United States or something like that, and that element. So Soapland. So what we have here is this teacher, and he realizes that kind of an old flame student of his is working in a Soapland. He is currently having an affair with a woman, so he's cheating on his wife. Well, I know this movie has a bunch of explicit sex scenes where we stop and have these sex scenes, and they're as graphic as you can be, you know, without actually showing pubes or genitalia. It is Japan, of course. You guys know how that works. So essentially, he's cheating on his wife with a mistress. He finds out about this old flame of his that he's still kind of in love with, and she's kind of in love with him. So he starts an affair with her. They start to have sex at the Soapland and everything like that. They have this weird scene where she asks if she wants anal sex and stuff like that. So it's just like one of these like perverse movies like that, and everything's very dirty and soapy, of course, but things get complicated when the teacher's wife enters the picture, and she not only wants the one mistress gone, she wants both mistress gone. So now we have two mistresses kind of fighting over this guy. We have the wife being involved, kind of manipulating the situation, and we have this dirty kind of husband teacher type who wants to keep his Soapland mistress and everything like that. So they definitely have this kind of relationship and everything, and as much as you don't think she would become possessive, she does become possessive. And the movie, like I said, is a lot of like sexy time and like arguing between who gets the teacher and that kind of stuff. It's more sex than that, but at the very end it is very dark, and it kind of just was bothersome, to be honest. Like, it's one of those endings that you're just like, oh, that's way darker than expected, and it does pack a punch as just kind of like erotica as this movie is. The ending is really kind of bothersome. As far as that, I guess I would have to comment on the sex scenes themselves. Like I said, it's so strange talking about these because a lot of them are just like very weird and fetishistic. So but as far as the movie as a whole is concerned, it wasn't one of my favorite Nakatsu erotic films. I like the ones that more have a story or more of an exploitation edge to them, less a softcore edge to them. I mean, they're all exploitative, but this dips more into the softcore porn territory than some of the other ones, like Rose Campus or Star of David. Those ones have like a bigger story, a crazier kind of element, and like characters and everything that are more kind of my style than Soapland. But this one does deliver on what you're looking for exactly. And now I did learn a new thing, that a Soapland is kind of a Japanese brothel. I'm sure there's other people that could comment more in depth about this or know more about Soaplands than I do. being a lowly American that would have to visit a massage parlor if I was looking for that deluxe treatment. Not saying that all massage parlors are in that vein, but in the area of Toledo, there is a couple massage parlors that do have that kind of reputation of being kind of like prostitution houses or anything like that. Not that I give a shit what people do in their free time or anything like that, or that I care people are prostitutes. Whatever you want to do with your life, I don't care. I'm not your boss. I'm not your judge. But anyways, Soapland. If it sounds like it's up your alley, check it out. The titles on these crack me up. True Story of a Woman in Soapland. Tear. And they all have alternative, longer Japanese titles that I will not try to pronounce for you guys. Okay, so now that I ended 1970, I'm just waiting to record the top 10. I did rewatch some 1970 movies, but I'm not going to tell you which. So I was like, you know what? Here's a movie that I had on my shelf for years. I had heard it's pretty strange. My friend Marcus Cook. Now, people know Marcus Cook because he's a special effects artist. I'm not trying to like name drop my friend Marcus Cook. I only bring up his name because I've noticed that special effects artists like the weirdest movies. And if a special effects artist recommends a movie to you that you haven't watched or you only vaguely know, you should probably check it out. And that's The Johnsons. This is a movie that I would have never guessed was made in 1992, but it is. It's actually a Netherlands movie, and it was written by like Roy Frumkes, who wrote like Street Trash and directed Document of the Dead, and he was a teacher, a film teacher. So he's got a reputation. Everybody kind of knows Roy Frumkes, and yeah. So this is a super strange film. It was written to take place in New York City. Then it was picked up by a certain company, and it was going to be a Dutch film, which makes it even stranger. So the plot of The Johnsons. I don't fucking know how to go about this. Take part The Manitou. So right there, you know, bonkers, crazy as shit. Take part The Manitou. Take part Miami Golem by Alberto Di Martino. And take part The Brute. So that's what we're working with here. We're working with three fucking bonkers-ass movies ranging in quality, right? The Manitou, Miami Golem, and a.k.a. Miami Horror, and The Brute. Three really weird movies. So The Johnsons. Holy shit. So this movie opens up. This is another one. It's like, I don't know what the hell to tell you. With this doctor delivering these 7 twins. It's not twins. It's like heptuplets or septuplets or something. It's septuplets. There we go. I didn't know if I was going to find the proper term. So he delivers 7 septuplets and he's exhausted. So on the way home, he, like you do when you're exhausted, you drive off the, you know, the trail, the kind of isolated trail. You wander into the water, rub mud on your face, get into the lake, and kind of like sacrifice yourself and die. And that's what you know, after you deliver septuplets and you're exhausted. So and then we fast forward 21 years later. We kind of following this kind of he's an occult teacher. He kind of studies the occult and weird kind of stuff like that. And he's teaching this course, and he's kind of one of the main characters in here. And meanwhile, there's this young girl who's having these strange nightmares about this group of men that are going to rape her, and they're wearing these masks, and we see everything. We see a bunch of like nudity and everything. And this teacher kind of, a student kind of stumbles on these lost video footage that's supposed to be gone forever, involving this old the cult stuff of the 7 people being born at a certain time. And then we bring in this weird character who kind of goes to meets the teacher, and he talks about these 7 people that were, now they're 21 years later, they all committed mass murder in this child's home, and now they're in this insane asylum. And we know that all these things are kind of connected, the occult teachings, this kind of old cult, these 7 these twins, 7 septuplets, and this young girl having these kind of flashes. When it's actually revealed what the hell is going to happen or how it's all connected, you're like, there's a whole lot of coincidences here, or maybe it's fate or some sort of weird, you know, kind of a legacy that's supposed to happen, a kind of religious deal that's supposed to unfold in a certain way. But it gets really crazy. Did I mention the backdrop of this movie is New York City, and all the, I believe it's supposed to be New York still. Maybe it's in Amsterdam or wherever the hell it is. It does feel a lot like Dick Maas's movies too, because the quality and everything and the kind of of humor and stuff, it fits in with that. So we have that element as well as the weird 3 movies I named earlier. So then the backdrop is the garbage men are on strike, so they refuse to take out the garbage, so the entire street and everything in the background is riddled with garbage, which I absolutely loved. I thought that was very awesome to do. So of course the 7 twins, or the septuplets, I keep saying 7 twins, I can't help it, I don't know. So the septuplets end up going after this young girl who's having these hallucinations, and it's up to the professor and some other people to try to protect her. The movie gets overly gory and crazy and has some really wild imagery and this strange baby thing that they're trying to, come to light, which is their god, which again reminds me of the Manitou and Miami Golem. And so they're trying to raise this thing, and it's up to them, and the twins cover themselves in mud like the good doctor, and they're just after them, and it's just some crazy chase scenes and gore and everything, and people just seem really soft and gooey when they get killed. Like somebody gets some jabbed through the eye, get the head chopped off. There's some high stakes chases and high high super tall buildings, and people are gonna. It's weird as shit. Some of the commentary I listened to was cracking me up because they're joking around, but Roy Frumkes and I think another of the writers or creators of the movie are with the director. And they initially mentioned that we kind of wanted to do the opposite of Deliverance, where you take the city folk and put them in the rural environment. We were going to start this movie like that, but then we're going to have that rural environment come to the city, which it would have been awesome. And he said, but they were more of a clan, a family clan, and we originally had Oliver Reed in the lead role here, which would have been brilliant. And again, I felt like it was kind of like The Brood. Jeremy actually said this movie reminds me of The Brood, and then I said, Oliver Reed, they would try to get him to play leader of the clan, and they're like, oh, makes sense. But that's just really awesome that this movie had the tie-in with Oliver Reed and everything at one point. But this movie is bonkers and weird and kind of one of the kind. It's very coincidence driven, but again, when you're dealing with kind of a religious fate and stuff like that, you kind of can go that this is the way it's supposed to be, and that kind of deal, the prophecy, I guess, and all that deal, the prophecy's fulfilled, yada yada yada. But anyways, the Johnsons, weirder than shit, would love a Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray or a Kino. This is definitely screaming for one of those releases that people would eat up just because it's so batshit. This is one that people would enjoy just for its weirdness alone, and the strange special effects, and the time it was made, and the backdrop and everything like that. Yeah. Okay, so this is another one that I always saw the cover for as a young child, and I always wanted to watch it. The cover art always kind of struck me, and this is The Visitors from 1988. This is a German import, and this movie is actually a German film. I had to watch it in the English dub, which I didn't prefer, but I think that it only has English, and a German doesn't have subtitles for the German version. So The Visitors, 1988. Oh boy, this is a weird film as well. Imagine Poltergeist if the couple in Poltergeist were 2 steps behind a murder-suicide. I don't know who's going to kill who, but there's definitely their marriage was going to end in a murder-suicide. These are 2 of the most miserable parents I've ever seen. They're constantly bickering with each other. They're constantly fighting. They're unsupportive of each other. They're mean as shit. They're just not nice, good people. And I don't know if the dubbing had hurt this movie at all, but to be brutally honest, I was like, they are unpleasant as shit. So this the father and mother and 2 kids end up buying this isolated house, which has the worst color palette I've ever seen on the outside. It's lime green, yellow, lime green, yellow, lime. I'm like, who the I'm not a designer or anything. I'm wearing a fucking partially tie-dyed New York Ripper shirt. But I'll tell you one thing. Didn't I have the exterior house be fucking lime green yellow? That's disgusting. But anyways, they buy this big house. He's working on this kind of advertising deal, and it doesn't really go through. So there's immediately a lot of stress on him and his wife, and he starts to seem to crack under the pressure, but that's not what's happening. He keeps kind of hearing weird things and seeing strange things around the house, and he believes the house is haunted. It really takes about 45 minutes for there to be any real kind of definite scares or anything like that, but before that there was one excellent scare that I thought was pretty well done and tremendous, where he's sitting out there kind of looking at the lake or the little pond with his kids, and he's carved this had a tree branch. He's already going through it with his wife, so he's having trouble and everything. And he's talking to him, and then he looks back and he sees in the attic, like they have this, like it's 3-floor big house. In the attic, there's this dark figure staring at him, and it moves. And I was like, oh, that's right out of like an old Japanese horror film, or even a classic American ghost story. And those can be done very well or ineffective. And this was a very effective moment. And I was like, oh shit, that scared me. Like, because I was sitting there like, I don't care if there's any ghosts in my house. This is stupid. And then after I saw that, I was like, yeah, I would be terrified as well. I wouldn't go back in that house. So I immediately folded and went back on what I said. Yeah, like a chicken shit. But the moment is like there's a strange part where he ends up getting like an occult guy to come in and help him, and this character is right out of Poltergeist 2, kind of those guys. But it ends kind of tragically with that person. And the last 20 minutes gets completely bonkers. We have like the couple fight to an extreme level of insanity. And of course, there's going to be some spooky shit. The part I did like in the attic is they break open a door. And what did I always tell you guys about, if there's a chained off, like a part of your house that looks like somebody like chained it off for a good fucking reason, and anything spooky going on, don't open it. Do not open it. Just leave it be. But of course he's got to get in there. And then right there, that idea of like just chaining off something that is a very powerful evil that you can't deal with is very Lovecraftian to me. It's like, well, it was very evil and we couldn't do anything about it, so we bricked it up in the well. Which one is that? Is that Dunwich Horror? Do they brick it up in the well, or is that I can't remember, The Color Out of Space? It's one of them. Well, they just brick up in the fucking well. That kind of idea that we can't deal with this. We don't know what to do. We're done. We're just gonna brick it up or chain it off or bury it in the ground and put a couple little things on there and hope that it never comes back. And that idea of discovering something like that is pretty terrifying. But they do have a reveal of the creature, and he is creepier than shit. I'm not sure what the hell he is, but the cover art always freaked me out. And like the back and the idea of it or not, The Visitors. The movie is a little too slow and dull. I mean, like, there's the first 30-40 minutes where they establish too much. It's an hour and 38 minutes where the pace could be a little quicker. The payoff is decent, and I do think it's worth a visit. It's worth visiting The Visitors. But I don't think it's going to knock your socks off. I think that anybody who saw this at a young age might have an affinity for it, kind of like The Watcher in the Woods or something like that, which I enjoy more than this. But I do see that this movie does have a certain appeal, and in 1988, there were probably a lot of people starving for a good ghost story or a good kind of creepy one, and hell, they might not even be ghosts. It's just a very creepy, weird movie. But the musical score doesn't really fit with the film either. It's a little too light. Like that scary moment where I was like, oh, and then it played like this music. I was like, I don't know about that. Like I was like a little scared, and then it started playing that, and I was like, I'm a little less scared now, and now I'm just kind of like, okay. But The Visitors, that's a German release. I don't believe it is a region free. It's an old release. I've had it for years. It's a region 2. But anyways, this is another one. I think Lionsgate owned it in Germany. That's the emblem that popped up, or the logo that popped up. I doubt it will get a Vestron release, but maybe somebody else owns it here, Studio Canal or something. Could see it at a Kino or a Scream Factory. I just don't know who would put The Visitors out. The Johnsons and The Visitors would be cool releases. Maybe, some context with those releases. Some more supplemental features would be awesome. But yeah. Okay, so the Patreon pick is from my man Jason Willard, and this is A Star Is Born, which this is the 2018 version. I know there was a 30s version. I know there was a 50s version. I know there was a 70s version as well. I never saw any of those, so I really didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if this was more of a musical, honestly, but it's not. I was thinking La La Land musical. This just shows my ignorance when it comes to a lot of different kinds of movies. This stars Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga, and believe it or not, I was about 40 minutes into it, and I was like, who's that actress? She's decent. She's pretty good in this. And I was like, oh yeah, isn't Lady Gaga in this? I was like, holy shit, that's Lady Gaga. And I didn't even register that was Lady Gaga. This movie has a lot of that. Like, I immediately recognized Bradley Cooper, who is really good in this as well. He's like Jackson Maine. He's like kind of a I don't want to say folk or country singer or anything like that, but he's kind of a alcoholic singer. He's got a good following, but he's just obviously not as happy as he should be. He's going deaf. He has a problem with alcohol. His older brother is played by the legendary actor Sam Elliott, who I love. Roadhouse, Tombstone, tons of great stuff. Big Lebowski. Sam Elliott's the man, by the way. I love him. So he's in this, and he plays his older brother, father figure, kind of like that deal. deal. And besides that, Lady Gaga is like kind of like she works at, I believe it's like an airport or something like that, or as some kind of job she really can't stand. She doesn't like at all, and her boss is always mistreating her. She just doesn't want to do it. And then like kind of on the weekend, she performs at this drag show. She's not in drag or anything like that, but she performs at this drag show as a singer, and everybody loves her. One day, Jackson Maine kind of just wanders into the nearest bar, and it's that one after a show, and he wants a couple drinks, and he sees her perform, and he's taken back, and they kind of go out, not like on a date, but they hang out. He's kind of drinking, and they hang out a little bit, and they form a bond, and he becomes kind of obsessed with her. He thinks that she's got a really great talent, and they start a relationship, and he pushes her forward, and we see the kind of rise of one star in Lady Gaga and the fall of another in Jackson, Bradley Cooper, and that's kind of the story. And more, we see the background of Bradley Cooper, and there's some really touching moments with him and Sam Elliott. There's a point where I don't want to spoil it, but when Sam Elliott's driving backwards and looking in his rearview mirror, and you see his eyes, and I was like, oh, that's really touching. I'm not dead inside yet because that affected me. I like Bradley Cooper a lot in this movie. I've always thought he was a good actor. He always did a good job when he pops up in movies, from his comedic roles to his more serious roles. It's just that I don't have a special attachment to him, but I really liked him in this one. He's charming as hell, although he obviously has his problems, and he's pretty much kind of doing a Jeff Bridges deal where he's like, oh, like Jeff Bridges in True Grit remake. He kind of reminds me a bit of Jeff Bridges, which is not an insult because Jeff Bridges is one of the best of all time, if I say so myself, and I think a lot of people would agree with me. Lady Gaga was really good in it. She held her own. She did a good job. She's not an actress, but she is a performer, and she knows this life, and thought she was really good in it. I did not register who her father was. It took me to see the credits, and I was like, oh shit, that's the Dice Man. That's Andrew Dice Clay. He's fucking fantastic in it. Really good. Different performance too. He's like, Paul Anka saw me, and he thought I was better than Sinatra. He said I had more raw talent than Sinatra. It's just really great, and his friends are always laughing at him. That's a nice touch. Dave Chappelle makes an appearance in here, which I didn't register that was Dave Chappelle. It's so funny. I didn't register it was Lady Gaga, Andrew Dice Clay, or Dave Chappelle, maybe because I didn't expect to see those people pop up in this movie. I just had a different kind of mindset. Bradley Cooper is the most recognizable. I feel like everyone else either just got old, or I got blind, or I got old, or we both got old. But the ending, jeez, man. Jeez Louise. And they set it up, but you don't really expect it to happen. I had no idea what kind of movie I was in for, so I didn't know what kind of level of drama I was in, but they go extreme drama, and it's really depressing. I liked it a lot. I like the music in it too, especially when they sing the duet. I think was really great and touching. It's a very good movie. The true villain of the movie is the manager, as they always probably are in this kind of situation. But anyways, I would really recommend checking A Star Is Born out if it sounds like it's up your alley. I watched it on HBO Max, and this is not typically something I would cover, but I like to branch out. I feel like I love all movies. It's just that I have a more focus or a more knowledge of cult films, especially horror, exploitation cult films. That's more my wheelhouse. But I do love everything from westerns to crime to, dramas and comedies. I love it all. So watching this is good. And it's also a good palate cleanser. You shouldn't watch the same movies over and over and over again. You get completely burnt out. You have a lack of knowledge. And a lot of your favorite horror directors, believe it or not, don't watch a lot of horror movies. Their inspirations don't come from horror movies. They come from all types of movies. You see Carpenter in westerns, and you ask these guys their favorite movies, and they might name some classic horror movies or sci-fi, but there's going to be a lot of non-horror or sci-fi in there as well, and it's good to branch out and see what other kind of movies are being made. So yeah, A Star Is Born, I enjoyed it. Maybe let me know which one should I watch, 30s, 50s, 70s, which one's the best version. Was there a 90s one? I don't know. It feels like there should be if we're in the... So anyways, A Star Is Born, good stuff. All right, we're here for Blindspot, and this was my pick. And I have heard about this movie for years. I've been meaning to watch it for years. Had the Criterion DVD, got the Criterion Blu-ray, and it just kept popping up in conversation, and it just was one of those things that I noticed. And then when I was like, oh shit, I kept noticing it everywhere, and I was like, well, it's time to watch House, or Houseu.
Houseu.
From 1977. I had heard that this is one of the strangest films ever made. And about the first 20 minutes into this movie, I was like, is this a horror movie, or is this more lighthearted fairy tale-esque? Which is kind of crazy that it has that kind of fairy tale quality because Suspiria came out the same year, and it's also batshit crazy and very colorful and different, and it has that fairy tale quality. 1977 was a very strange year for horror films. Let's to be honest. I mean, you have stuff like The Hills Have Eyes, you have Eraserhead, you have Suspiria, you have Houseu. So it's just kind of a crazy deal going on. Some people say that Martin came out that year as well. Some people say 78. So Houseu. This director also did a bunch of other strange films. I'm not sure if I've seen any of the other ones. Drifting Classroom is one that comes to mind that I knew of. But so the thing with Japanese directors is they're usually very prolific. Very rarely does a Japanese director do a one or two off. The only one I can think of off the top of my head is the director of Id and Organ. She did 2 films, and that's about it. But usually they're so prolific, and they make dozens and dozens of movies, especially if they somehow get put in the studio platform. Just hearing other people talk about this movie and podcast and stuff, I don't know if it's necessarily true, but they said they asked this director after Jaws was such a hit in 1975, they said, well, we want something like Jaws. And this is Japan's answer to Jaws, which is absolutely insane. I mean, the only thing that would be even a connection is that there's an animal that's somewhat dangerous in a cat.
Yeah, there's like a evil animal. There is like some scenes with water and blood in them, but
that's about it. So
yeah, I couldn't call this Jaws.
It's the director's like, I do whatever the fuck I want.
Right.
So essentially, what we have here is a group of schoolgirls, 7 of them, and they're all named in really great ways, almost like a Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. You know how everybody in the Snow White's named like Happy and Doc and Grumpy and whatever. There's a Grumpy. Yeah, there's a Grumpy.
Yeah.
So they're all named things like Fantasy and Sweet and
Kung Fu.
And who is the one that always ate all the time?
Mac.
So they all have these nicknames that kind of reflect their, I guess, their personality or possibly a special trait that they have or what they're known for. And the main girl here is gorgeous, and she wants to kind of visit her aunt, who kind of to reconnect with her family past. Her mother died giving birth to her, and her father's getting remarried, so she's all upset about that. And, you know, the plot doesn't seem too crazy right now. I mean, it seems a bit strange, but this is when we start. It's the way the filmmaking is done with matte paintings and super colorful things and dissolves and all this kind of weird, strange filmmaking techniques that were most likely, I would say so, outdated for years. Before this movie, but they use it in a super colorful way.
Yeah, there's like really intense matte paintings. In one of the scenes, she's telling like the story of her aunt, and it does like a silent film with like text for speech. Like it's like a flashback. Yeah, but there's all kinds of just like weird cuts. When they're on the train, like half of it's like animated.
It's a bus or a train. Is it a bus?
It's a train.
So
yeah,
also
Japan.
That kind of plays into fantasy too. Like fantasy, like nobody believes when she starts seeing strange things and stuff like that. And the movie has kind of a turn. Like I would guess the only movie I would try to put this tonally with, and it's not exactly like that, is Happiness of the Katakuras by Takashi Miike. Where you have kind of like this dark kind of subject matter, but it's also very cheery. But the point of when this movie turns is there's kind of like a floating head or a head found in a well, and I said, is that person, like, is it a hallucination? Are they going to come back? And I was like, we still are in that territory of family friendly. But when people start getting killed, I don't want to say it's a slasher, but it is horrific. And it's almost like a supernatural-esque slasher. This is before Phantasm. This is before Nightmare on Elm Street. And you can kind of see some of that influence, especially in Nightmare on Elm Street. And I never really thought of that until just now, right?
Yeah. I mean, because, like, the characters kind of, like, get taken over by like whatever like their trait is. Like there's one girl, I think her name's Melody, like she gets eaten by the piano and like all of her body parts are getting spit all over the place.
And there is a strange cat that is the auntie's cat. The auntie's a witch, spoiler alert, but that's pretty much given right away. And she's kind of manipulating the situation, uses her familiar cat to kind of go around the house and like shoot laser beams and like eyes glow so you know it's her being controlled by her. But it's really charming and freaking weird. And there's a point where I was like, there's not going to be any like sleazy or nudity in this. And then there's some nudity. I was like, they're like kids and they're really young, and it made me feel weird. Like I was just like, what the? I didn't expect it. I didn't, but I don't know. The movie's just I was kind of very happy with it. And at first I didn't know what to expect. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I think anybody who popped this in, not really, even if you're prepared for weird, I don't think you're really prepared for this.
I don't think you know how far the weird is going to
or
go.
what kind of weird you're going to get.
Yeah.
I expect weird, like visitor queue weird or something. Like, it's more, it feels lighthearted, but it's not.
It's really shot like kind of like a nightmare. Just like some of the effects.
Like something like an old cartoon you'd see where like the sun is like in the sky and it has a smile on and waving to you. Like that's the kind of thing. But then all of a sudden that sun tries to eat you like Super Mario Brothers 3 or something. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a live action that.
I would say it's probably in that same vein.
Yeah.
Stuff just gets like really surreal. Some of the effects like especially like I go back to the piano scene because like it's like they just filmed it in front of like a green screen, although I think this might have been like a blue screen. Not that I don't even know if that even matters, but it's like, okay, well just take this blue sheet and like put it over your shoulder and we'll got your arm over here. Like her body parts aren't even in like the right orientation they need to be.
And they have like the fingers on the piano.
The fingers on the piano. There's all kinds of stuff. When Gorgeous is like looking in the mirror and she like puts on the makeup, I think like she like shatters, like her skin starts to shatter. Like it's really neat.
I think it's pretty damn great, and I think it's one of a kind. And like, I don't even want to hear anybody say that they don't like. I can't see anybody not getting something out of this. Like, if somebody's like, it's the worst movie I've ever seen, I was like, I don't really want to talk to you. Like, if you think it's the worst movie you've ever seen, I know I'm getting like more like that. Like, I just think it's so. I loved it. I think I loved it actually.
I mean, the only movie is like a bad movie. Like a bad movie is just like a boring movie. There we go.
Yeah, that has no entertainment or intelligent learning curve. If you don't learn anything or it's not entertaining, if it does absolutely nothing for you, then I would say it's bad.
Right. Like this one runs, kind of long, but it doesn't feel long.
No.
It does. I think it does take a while to get to where it's like, oh, okay, this is a horror movie.
Yeah.
But that section, that first 30 minutes, is filled with like so much like sensory imagery that it's kind of like I can. It's not a chore to watch.
No.
All the characters are fun. I think the aunt's fantastic. The killer bride, if you will, is I think really really cool looking. I don't know. It's all around just like really fun.
There's a music in here, there's kind of a musical at points, if I'm not mistaken, where characters sing like songs within it, right?
There is. I know that there's music in it.
I feel like there was a theme within it that constantly played, and
there
like,
is a
it
theme.
gets stuck in your head. Oh, it's very diegetic too. There was a double diegetic,
yeah,
where like you heard it somewhere and then you heard it on the piano. It was just like wow, and it's constantly like following, and then like you read the lyrics and it's kind of telling like part of the story and everything like that. I just was really happy with it. It looked spectacular. It was in a 4:3 too. It wasn't a widescreen film, obviously
right.
Shot like that. But the Criterion disc looked excellent. The colors really popped. It's visually, it's a really great movie. I mean, I'm trying to think, like 77, so many visual movies.
I mean, I liked it a bit more than Suspiria, but I think I followed it better than Suspiria. The original Suspiria, I think, is very hard for me to follow.
What's to follow?
I think that's the problem, is there is nothing to follow.
There's
like,
stuff to follow.
Like, you got, like the witches, and you got, like, the dancing.
You got the witches?
And it's like, but nothing, I feel like nothing ever happens in Suspiria, and I think it might be why I like the remake more, is because it kind of like, okay,
you're getting a lot of hate right now. You're just trailing off in the hate territory.
People can be attached to whatever they want to be attached. I'm just telling you that, I think the remake is a subjectively better.
I like both quite a bit. I always would give it to the original because I'm one of those old school kind of people. I always do that. As far as House, it's not in either book, and I don't even know where to go on a rating. Honestly, I would probably do a 4.5 out of 5 for first time viewing. I thought it was great. I loved the ending, and it was darker. I love that it was darker. Like,
yeah,
it was cheery but dark at the same time. Mm-hmm. Like for a second, I literally thought it was going to do the whole. It was all a dream, or we're all fine, and it really doesn't. And I was just like.
Which I don't have an issue.
I don't really have an issue with either, but it was kind of refreshing to see
right.
a movie that followed this kind of framework and style,
mm-hmm. and
you expect that cheery ending or that
and
fix,
you don't.
And there isn't a fix, and it's just like
it just keeps going.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I think when you're watching it, like the end says, like, oh yeah, there's no more young girls in town. Well, it's like, well, yeah.
Which also reminds me of Nightmare on Elm Street 2, that there's no more children in the town, and by Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6, the kids are all gone from the town. Do you think Wes Craven saw this? Probably fucking not, because Wes Craven didn't see any movies until he hit a certain age. But I imagine some of the sequels, if anyone got a chance to see this movie, I don't know like how well accessible it was in the United States for a certain time. But I could definitely see people that like kind of surreal imagery, like Screaming Mad George, who has Japanese roots, I believe.
Oh, I mean,
who does
that
special
makes
effects,
sense,
definitely
yeah.
being inspired by something like this. And you see that kind of weird, surreal stuff in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I never seen it before, so I can't imagine that Wes Craven's ever seen it.
No. Why does that mean anything? I mean, Wes Craven went to theaters and stuff and had probably more access and living in... I think he did live in New York at a certain point.
I don't know if this would ever play in a theater.
I think
not
it would.
In
Now
the
it
United
would for
States.
sure. Now it would for sure.
Now it would for sure.
But back then, it's hard to tell. Hard to say. I love the movie. What would you give it?
Probably a 4 out of 5. I like how you're using the 5 scale now because you realize it's much better.
9 out of 10.
It's stupid.
9 out of 10. First time view, that's very high for a first time view. I'm that type of guy who's like, I ain't giving nothing a perfect rating the first time I watch it. But I have caved a couple times. When the first time I watched Cool Hand Luke, I was like, well, it's just perfect movie. Or Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, I was like, can't
I
argue
think
with
people
perfect.
notice, but I just say whatever number if it like comes off the tip of my tongue. If I like it, it's a 4. If I don't like it, it's a 2. I never give a 3.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I gave The Crow a 3.
I might have given The Crow a 3.
No,
Maybe
you
I
gave it like a 4. You love Crow.
Yeah, I thought it was fun.
You love The Crow.
Fun. I like the actual Crow.
I don't remember The Crow in that. What are yeah, I do now.
Yeah, he's the
it's
main,
just like
main character.
It's not the main character.
Uh-huh.
What are we watching next week?
I didn't even think about what we have to watch next week. I don't know. Oh, hell. Well, it's Halloween time. Should we watch like a Halloween movie?
Well, what do you want to watch?
I don't know. You want to watch Midnight Hour?
You got to pick a blind spot, one you haven't seen or one I haven't seen.
I haven't seen it properly released.
No, that's not going to happen.
Oh.
Can't pick the Midnight Hour.
Oh, darn. I don't want to pick a Universal. I feel like I'd be wasting my
Well, we could start
pick.
the Universal now.
Let's just start the Universal. It's stupid.
Okay.
Also,
I don't remember which was the first one. I think we're probably, even though it's not technically Universal, we're probably going to start with that Dr. Jekyll from like 1920 or something like
1920 Dr. Jekyll.
Maybe 1913 to be honest.
1913. Okay.
We'll see. Well, whatever the Universal list is, we're going to definitely start it. I was going to make a little video for it, but that'll probably it's going to be a long series, so we're going to start the Universals. I like it.
You like what?
I like starting it. I got the early Hunchback in.
We're only doing this one Universal
no, we're not.
for the
Next,
time being.
Maybe next week I'll do another Universal.
Okay, well then you're not going to get a Universal from me for quite some time.
No, you can't bullshit. Don't bullshit artists. Once we start it, it's got to be somewhat in the regular rotation. I'm not doing this over 10 years.
You can do it in your regular rotation.
You probably don't have 10 years left in your gas tank.
No, I probably don't even finish off this video.
We got to finish these Universal movies, or we're done. So we're out of here. You guys take care.
Bye.
Okay, let's get into these questions, comments, concerns. Okay, Ken, last week, what did I ask you? Some of your favorite horror movies from 2021, because I need to start watching those for my year-end list, which I'm going to be do a very poor job on, probably. Ken Coakley, this goes back to 6 Degrees topic. You mentioned Kurt Russell and John Carpenter and their collaborations. The first movie together was the 1979 TV movie Elvis. Russell, as a child actor, appeared with the real Elvis in a movie It Happened at the World's Fair. A few years later, in his last acting role in the movie A Change of Habit, he played Dr. John Carpenter. Later, Russell played an Elvis impersonator in 3,000 Miles to Graceland, in which a little kid kicked Elvis in the shin, like Russell did to Elvis, and It Happened at the World's Fair. That was a nice, fun little coincidence. I knew some of that, but I didn't remember all those little details like that either. I didn't know every detail. Very cool. Mike Moore, I remember hearing that Kurt Russell story. He told about Charles Bronson giving him a birthday present or something, or a Christmas birthday present or something on the set, and he's just like, when you gave that to Bronson, he was like, it was really touching, but nobody had ever given him a gift before. Mike Moore, love the channel as always. I have to admit, I'm a big out of the loop, social media-wise. Any news or knowledge when the 22 Shots podcast is coming back? We're recording the 1970 retro year, October 15th. So probably shortly after that, look for it, and then we should be on a regular rotation here and there. So there we go. Isi Misio, glad to hear you had fun at Cinema Wasteland. Yes, Devil in the Flesh is the one with Rose McGowan. has one of the best hilariously awful acting ever from the grandmother. Movie is great with all the cheesy elements you get from the 90s erotic thriller. Can't believe you've never seen Houseu. The Deer Hunter is great. Still need to see Howling Village. Some 2021 favorites include The Stylist, Queen of Black Magic, Caveat, The Maid, Thai film, obsessed with it. Still need to see Gaia, Titan, Old, Candyman, Spiral, The Deep House, The Medium, Quiet Place 2, etc. Been busy with work, studying for tech certifications, and haven't had the chance to unwind. We'll be on PTO for 11 days starting on October 22nd, and I'll try and watch as many of those titles during that time. Awesome. I've seen The Stylist on Queen of Black Magic, which I really enjoyed. So Irish Mad Dog 1987. A few recommendations from this year would be The Banishing, Sun, The Reckoning, The Power. Super creative titles this year. LOL. But my fave film of the year is the Italian flick called Red Screening, which I know you will love. Cheers. Awesome. Check that out for sure. Gwynplaine, Cronenberg is remaking Crimes of the Future with Viggo Mortensen starring 2022 release date. That's insane. I like that. I will watch it. Very interesting movie and probably more relevant today than it ever was. But again, when people say that, it's funny. It's just like, do any of these should ever become unrelevant? Like, it always feels like we're dealing with the same issues. Hudson, I can't remember what you've seen, but my fave so far from 2021 is Psycho Gorman and The Night House with Rebecca Hall. I know Terrified came out 2017, but it's now only got a Blu-ray release in the UK, and it gives me the creeps. R.I.P. Tazgam. Thank you. But Terrified's excellent. Gorky M. Here's one 2021 film that's on Netflix, an Italian horror film called A Classic Horror Story. It's a weird one, only because of the twist that comes at the end, which will end up dividing the audience, much like Alexander Aja's movie High Tension did. I enjoyed this movie, and you might too. Another movie you might enjoy on Netflix is Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight. Actually, I think this is from 2020, and it's a Polish slasher film. And another from 2020 is Monstrous, a Bigfoot serial killer movie. Very interesting film indeed. Check them out. I saw Army of the Dead and hated it, because I mentioned last week I couldn't get through Army of the Dead. What the flick? Yeah, Shajin Barbarian is indeed my Facebook. It was awesome meeting you in person. Eric Roberts was humble as fuck. Fred Vogel was super awesome. And David Milburn was the coolest guy ever. Best day ever. Awesome. George Hilton, we're checking out The Power, Oxygen, In the Earth, and Censor for some good films in 2021. Thank you. Art Figueredo, about the practice of leaving movies wrapped until you watch them. I just received a War of the Worlds disc in a 2 Jakes package. Thanks, Paramount. I also once received a cover from Severin without a disc. Then there was the VSA title without the poster, but that was with everyone, and they shipped it out the next month's package. Anyways, packaging does happen, unfortunately. I wonder why you're not concerned about this. I am, but I've hit that point where I can't worry about everything. But what's more concerning is you get the right movie, but it doesn't work. So you buy something 6 months before you eventually go to watch it, which happened with me with Cabin in the Woods 4K. It didn't work. It started skipping, so I had to order another one. That happens sometimes, and a lot of places only have a certain amount of time where you can order it, so it becomes a pain in the ass. I've had that happen a couple of times. I remember ordering a VHS off eBay, and it was supposed to have Crocodile in it, the Thai movie from like 1980, but instead it had like Creepshow 2 in it, and I was all mad, and I was demanding when I was like 13 because I didn't know any better that just shit happens or whatever, and it wasn't on purpose. So as far as that's concerned, I would, but I just can't go through it. I'm so far behind at this point. I'm just gonna have to live with it. I'm not opening all the movies just to look if they have the right DVD in it. I guess I'll cross that road when it happens. I mean, I'm vaguely concerned about it, but I just can't. It does happen. I mean, that because when you don't get to watch everything right when you get it, and if you order something and then you wait 6 months to watch it, it could be out of print by the time you watch it, or it just the company won't offer a refund, yada yada yada. But I've never had a problem dealing with certain companies. Like Vinegar Syndrome's going to make it right. If you tell them and you never had problems with them before, they're going to make it right for you. But I understand your concerns, and it is a concern. It's just one I don't bring up that much. BSAT. Old was pretty interesting. Ilk Vomit. Will you be watching the Chucky TV series when it comes out? Probably not, just because I don't keep up on TV, and I honestly haven't watched the last 4 Child's Play. I haven't seen Seed of Chucky. I haven't seen Curse of Chucky. I haven't seen Cult of Chucky. I've seen the first 4. I'm not a big franchise guy, which is funny. Like, after they make, like, numerous sequels, I just stop watching. Like, I love, the first 2 Hellraisers. I've seen, like, a lot of the Hellraisers for some reason. But, like, if you look at a lot of the, like, the sequels that just, like, Children of the Corn, I've seen the first 4. I was like, I'm out. Child's Play's the same way. Like, I have no problem with a lot of the other sequels. I just don't get that interested in a lot of them. So I never keep up on television. Daniel Roebuck LaFleur, Michael Gorman, Gary Uderick, The Forever Purge, Mark Humphreys, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, Keith Voigt Jr., Brand New Cherry Flavor, Robert D., Your Heart Can't Beat Unless I Tell It To is my #1 movie of the year so far. Love that movie. Caveat, In the Earth, Fried Berry, and Jacob's Web, I really like too. Patty Rhodes, Your Heart Can't Beat Unless I Tell It To, yes. Tim Walker, Come True, Seder, Censor, Malignant, Howling Village, St. Maud, and The Vigil. I've seen Malignant, Howling Village, St. Maud, like the old lows. Kyle Jonathan, Come True. Jamie J. Sammons, The Night House, Caveat, Jacob's Wife, Malignant. Again, I like Malignant, so. Jamie Sammons is awesome, by the way. Check out her podcast. ABC's A Hidden Horror, and she has other ones as well. Dustin Mills, Malignant. Aaron Mazzola, I second that. Paul Lynch, also Malignant. David Luton, I haven't seen that many, but Violation, the Fear Street films, and The Power so far. Also the sequel to A Quiet Place. Bo Ransdell, Candyman. Bo also has a numerous bunch of podcasts. That guy actually runs, geez, why am I missing Legion Podcast Network? Check out their podcast on there. Lots of good stuff. Chris Mayo, Violation, The Sadness. I really want to see Sadness very much. Granda Misanthrope, I'm Waiting, The Sadness, Horgor. Nathan Thomas Melander, A Quiet Place Part 2. Mark Nadeau. So Mark Nadeau is the king of watching movies for a certain year. If you guys ever listen to his podcast, horror, geez, I'm so old. I listen to all these podcasts, and I listen to hundreds of hours of these people, and I never register what their podcasts are. I just have them subbed on iTunes. But look up Mark Nadeau and his podcast. It's a really good podcast. But this guy is the king of watching the new movies. He's already up close to 400 movies from 2021. That's a lot. So I'm going to read top 20 of his ones right here. 8 for Silver, Malignant, The Power, Queen of Evil, No One Gets Out Alive, Fear Street 94, 1978 and 1666, The Last Matinee, Candyman, Vigil, Censor, Night House, Old Ways, Midnight Mass, A Classic Horror Story, Stylist, St. Maud, Blood Red Sky, The Boy Behind the Door, Super Deep, and Titan. So yeah. And he said, there's a few for you. He has 5 pages of them he posted on my Facebook. So Jay Wall, Censor is the best horror film of 2021 so far. In the Earth is second. Thomas Norman, Jay, that one was a lovely tribute to Video Nasties. Very well done. Melanie Brooke Odom, I like The Old Ways a lot. The new Candyman is really well done also. And The Power was a good watch too. I also really like the new Wrong Turn movie. Expected it to be a rehash of the same tropes, but definitely subverted my expectations. Melanie Brooke Odom, Willy's Wonderland was also a wild watch. Silent, dicey, Nick Cage is great. Shazam Barbarian, the only 2020 release that I have seen is Candyman and A Quiet Place 2, but I thought A Quiet Place 2 is better than Candyman, so I declared it the best movie of the year. So therefore we have Patty Rhodes mentions The Pond, and Thomas Norman says The Sadness, probably. So this week, as if you guys notice in the update, I have a bunch of movies that I've imported. So I want to know your favorite websites to import movies. So what is it? Yes Asia, all them kind of places like that. What is your favorite company to import movies? And just don't put Amazon, okay? Pick something else. I understand. I know a lot of people do Diabolic because they'll import them and they get stuff all over the country, so that's really cool. But what is your favorite website or store to import movies for you? I used a few here and there and everything like that, but I'm looking kind of for small ones too, not just eBay or Amazon or stuff like that. So yeah, let's hop into the Patreon drawing for the next reviews and the update, which is the decent size one. Okay, we're going to do the Patreon drawing really quick. And I know what you're saying. Why does it sound terrible? That's because I am using a new sound recorder, and I forgot to do this. Did not want to throw my mini, it's a mini scan disc, and my big monkey paws have trouble getting it in and out, so I decided just to record the raw audio just for this very short clip. So we got to draw 5 names here. First up is Chris Rivers. Any Arrow release that you've not seen or had the time to watch. Very cool. No problem doing that. Then we have Dan the Cameraman, the McDonald's list, which was a really weird list he gave me featuring movies that have McDonald's in it, including the classic movie Mac and Me. So, what a weird ass thing to do, but it's very funny to me. Jim Simon, 12 Angry Men. No problem with watching a classic like that. I'm trying to get to the bottom because I know there's some names that have not been picked out in a long time. What we have here, we have Jason Willard in Yes Ma'am, which is a Hong Kong action film. Look forward to watching that. And last, getting drawn out here is Dustin Mills, which is awesome, and it's Street Fighter with Sonny Chiba. I might do that whole box that I have. His name hasn't been drawn out in a long time, and I find it really hard to watch one of those without the rest because I've seen all the sister Street Fighter movies. So again, let's go over that. Chris Rivers, any Arrow release I had not seen, had the time to watch. 12 Angry Men. Dustin Mill, and then we had 12 Angry Men by Jim Simon, Dustin Mills Street Fighter, Dan the Cameraman, McDonald's List, Jason Willard, Yes Ma'am. So yeah, let's hop back to that video again, even though I said we're doing that, but let's hop back to it. Alright, let's hop into this update. It's a decent size. First up, we have Halloween on 4K from Scream Factory. I opened this one up because it sounded like there's a rattler in it. I always double check on those, so... Very cool to have this on 4K. I heard it's a new remaster. I don't know why I keep buying the Halloween movies. Didn't I? I was quoted as saying, I'm never buying Halloween again after I bought that box set from Scream Factory, even if they put John Carpenter's DNA in it. Like to clone him. I don't care. I'm not buying it. I order all of them at the same time, but Amazon has a lot of stuff on back order or whatever. I ordered them in July, so not all of them. They're like they're showing up, whatever. No big deal. Halloween 4 showed up as well. The other 3 are still coming, but I got them all. The Return of Michael Myers, Part 4. I know a lot of people were complaining about these cover arts. I'm not too thrilled with them either. They look like composition work, like a bunch of different drawn stuff or whatever, and then like kind of put together on the case. I not enough for me not to get the movies, and I am curious to rewatch a lot of these. I have not seen parts 2, 3, and 4, 5. The first, I haven't seen any but the first one in so long. So yeah, I guess there's a new Dolby Atmos mix, which should be awesome to watch these in, all of them. Then we have some Blu-rays. We have the Phantasm 1 and 2. And I heard some complaining that some people only the second disc was a misprint, and they didn't put the right one in there because it's supposed to be featuring a stunning uncut remaster of Phantasm 2. But that's the reason I ordered this, because I wanted to see the uncut Phantasm 2, because I believe that. But a lot of people were saying that Well-Go accidentally put some of the the old disc in here, so they are making it right if you contact them. So make sure you got the wrong disc, and then ask, and they'll send you a replacement. So now we have a Scream Factory here, A Stranger is Waiting. This is a Sean Cunningham movie. I've never actually seen it. Beneath New York's Grand Central Station, a killer can hide, victims can disappear, and 1 million witnesses will never know it happened. So yeah, this is one I had on DVD for years and I never got a chance to watch. It looks like Rip Thorne's in there. Is that Rip Thorne? Yeah, Rip Thorne. John Naughton. Yeah, cool. Then we have Dead Zone from Scream Factory as well. Classic movie, David Cronenberg, starring Christopher Walken, Herbert Lom, Martin Sheen, Brooke Adams. Just a great cast in here. Tom Skerritt. I forgot Tom Skerritt was in here. Anthony Zerbe as well. Yeah, good movie, good movie. Written by Stephen King, the original book. Then we have Kolchak, the Night Stalker TV series, the complete series from Kino. Loved getting this one. My dad used to watch this show. He always liked it. So yeah, this is starring Darren McGavin. I have the 2 TV movies, and now I have the series. Up here is some imports from a company called, The Black Cat or something like that, but in French. It's a French company. This is a 4K here. This is Clash. I've never seen this movie. It sounded pretty damn cool, so when I placed an order, I was like, I might as well make it worth my time. I ordered a few titles. There's a couple in there that I really wanted, so this one sounded awesome. It looks cool. I bet it's going to get a Blu-ray release here. I'll have to watch this. So yeah, see how it is. Clash from 1984. These are 2 from Claude Molat. I gotta make sure that I remember the American translations here. Is it Knife Under Throat? I believe is one of them, and Black Venus is the other one on this disc. This director also did, I believe it's the same guy who did Blood Rose. So yeah, there's some nudity on the back there. I'll probably have to maybe digitize that or something, or blank it out. But yeah, I believe this one has 2. Yeah, it has Black Venus, and Knife Under Throat is the American translation to this one. So very cool. Oh, there's nudity on the front too. Didn't even notice it. I have to blur that out. And then we have the Traque, or Le Traque, a film by Serge Leroy. And this stars Mimsy Farmer, and this is supposed to be a pretty crazy film. Kind of like something in the vein of like A Last House on the Left, and it just always sounded like it was really kind of intense and everything, and I never heard too many people talk about it. I saw that they put it out on 4K. I missed out on that, so I ended up getting the Blu-ray, but that's Le Traque. Here we have Night of Death, which is another French film. All these are English friendly, English subtitles on all the releases they have that I picked up. This is Night of Death, which is by the same director as The Clash, Clash. So this one's supposed to have a good reputation. If anybody remembers, Synapse put out the DVD. So yeah, very cool. Then we have another by Claude Molnot. This is Le Saignee, and I can't remember the translations on all these movies, which is always bad, right? But this has Gabrielle Tinti in it. This one sounded really interesting as well. So like I said, I was going to make it worth my time. This just had such a striking cover that I had to grab it. And then last we have Blood Rose, which I did watch for 1970, and this is a pretty cool gothic kind of horror film. Again, the French people do not give a shit about throwing nudity on their covers, which, I mean, it's just breast and things like that. Americans are uptight about that kind of stuff. So yeah, I was glad I got those in. And here I got a big order of Hong Kong movies in. I ordered some classy titles here. We have Raped by an Angel Part 4. Sorry, I went back order here, but yeah, these are supposed to be really sleazy Cat 3 titles. I don't know if all of them are Cat 3, but the Raped by an Angel series is very strange. I've never had a chance to watch them. As far as I'm talking about which I guess Raped by an Angel 1 is AKA something else, and then they have all alternative names and kind of weird stuff like that. So then we have Raped by an Angel Part 3. So we got 2, 3, and 4 got released on Blu-ray, but not Part 5. There's 2 Part 5s called Part 5. I don't know which one's the official. And then we also have fucking the first one, something else. So it gets really complicated. But this is Raped by an Angel Part 3. There's such classy titles in Hong Kong. If anybody's never seen any of the Cat 3 or Hong Kong titles, their titles are really explicit, even more explicit than the movies sometimes. Then we have Raped by an Angel Part 2. I did get a good deal on a lot of these, so I ended up ordering a bunch in. Yeah, then we have the Untold Story Part 2 on Blu-ray. Pretty cool sequel to the awesome Untold Story 1. Not a direct continuation of the story, but a cool movie. I remember the lead actress in here says, "Those who don't love me deserve to suffer," and I love that. Then we have, what is this one called? Bifurcation, I believe is what it's called. Billocation, which this looks like a super weird ghost story. That cover art really brought me in, and it was a great price on it, so I ended up picking it up. I'm region free, by the way, but I believe these are all kind of are they region A? I think they all are anyway, so it doesn't matter. Then we have the classic Biozombie on Blu-ray. Love this movie. I've not seen it in years. I really look forward to revisiting it. I remember this movie being so fun. Zombie comedy, Biozombie. I really want to watch this one ASAP. And then we have Sex and Zen 2. I know I didn't get the first one, but the price was right on this one, if that makes any sense. Yeah, these movies are supposed to be pretty wild too. So, and then we have Horrible High Heels. From my understanding, is not the full uncut version, so it's a little bit of a bummer, but good price on here nonetheless. Another Cat 3 movie supposed to be pretty freaking bonkers. So, I don't know. It's mostly uncut from my understanding. Then we have 3 Days of a Blind Girl, which has Anthony Wong. Again, looks super sleazy, Cat 3 stuff. Very cool. I'll let you guys know how these editions are. Then we have Fatal Vacation, which is one I always had on DVD. I had a lot of these 3 Days of Blind Girl on DVD. Tons of these on DVD, and I'm upgrading now. Fatal Vacation. Looks like there's lots of crazy action and stuff like that. So, yeah. Then we have Body Weapon. Looks awesome. Another one that I think actually got rated Cat 3. No, it's 2B. Sorry about that. But if you guys know the rating system, the Cat 3 titles are the most explicit. Stuff like Untold Story is that. But Her Vengeance, I think, is a 2B as well. So it's Body Weapon. Then we have Bless This House, which looks like a really kind of comedy ghost story. Looks fun. Looks bizarre. Yeah, they have tons more that I wanted to order. I just couldn't, drop like $500. I came close. I kept adding stuff, and I was like, that's the cutoff. It's a good sale. And then right here we have The Sleep Curse with Anthony Wong, directed by Herbert Yao. It's a Cat 3 as well. I covered this one a little bit ago. I enjoyed this one. Very cool movie. Herbert Yao did Untold Story, Ebola Syndrome, Taxi Hunter, and this is another horror film he did. And this is a good one. So if anybody's not seen The Sleep Curse, check it out. But that's my update. We're going to hop back to the video. All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, have a good one.